So shall we move on to talking about some of the warning signs, or when we
Yeah.
start thinking that something's going on here that maybe is a concern, yeah, and then starting to feel, do we need to help in some way?
Yes.
Yeah. I guess the things that we would notice most are when we're seeing something happening more often. So it's the frequency of it is increasing. Or so, for example, they're missing school more days than they were before. That they're feeling, saying they're feeling sick more often. Or if the experience seems to be going on for longer, more of the time. So there's they might get distressed about something and not then kind of be able to move through it. They're getting sort of stuck with it. So the duration has increased, and that it's more intense than you would think it needs to be. So it's kind of disproportionate to what the situation is. That suddenly there's a very intense reaction to going to the mall, or having forgotten to do something, more than what it would have been before. So those would be really important warning signs to look out for. And that the distress is present just a lot more of the time, whether that's sort of panic or angry outbursts or irritability, but there seems to be, there's a state of sort of more tension and distress, and they're kind of on edge more, or more alert. And then of course you talked about the physical pains and not feeling well, experiences, sore stomachs and headaches. That can happen it happens in children, but it can happen into adolescents as well. And I think when you talk about the rituals and routines, having to do things in set ways and not being able to be interrupted when during doing certain routines, or having to start again and repeat things, then we're wondering, is it becoming a bit more obsessive and compulsive? And that would be a warning sign to note. And I liked what you said about anxiety. Often wanting us, it feels like we're not in control. So then we try and control, and then we end up kind of over-controlling. And so in the end, the anxiety is controlling us. So we want to over-prepare, and noticing when they're doing that, or overdo, or overthink everything. And then when we're overthinking, we start getting really internally focused and start ruminating and getting stuck on particular thoughts. And so it's really hard to keep focused on the whole in the end. Yeah. So those are some of the things we might notice. Is there anything else you would?
No, I was just thinking, so it's really noticing, has there been a change? Are these things happening more often, and are they sticking around longer?
Yeah.
And are they kind of more intense?
Bigger.
And what we would expect.
Yeah. And I guess the other thing that's really important is to look at the functioning. Is this starting to impact on their functioning? That there are changes in sleep patterns. They're really struggling to get off to sleep or get up in the morning, or changes in eating patterns. And we did talk. You talked a little bit about that self-consciousness and awareness of, and whether that's starting to kind of become more of a concern for them as well, or whether just because they're feeling so tense a lot of the time, it's hard to kind of feel like they've got an appetite. Things like concentration starts to get affected because they've got so many of these kind of stuck thoughts in their heads. It's really hard to give attention to the other things that you need to do. So performance at school might start suffering, wanting to avoid things like not wanting to go into public places or go to school or go to family events where there are more people. I think, all of those changes in functioning are important to note as well.
And I think it is really important because it can be hard because a lot of this is somewhat normative in for teens.
That's true.
And so I think that coming back to like, is this actually impacting their life and how is it impacting their life? That part can be really helpful to tell. Has this become bigger than what we would typically expect?
Yeah, you're right, because sleep patterns do change a bit in adolescence. That there's a lot later onset, but they then sleeping in more in the morning. So what's normative and when does it feel like?
Having
needing more privacy is an important thing. They'll want to have more time in their own space, and but when does it become a problem? And perhaps it's that. Is it getting in the way of things like previous interests that they had, avoiding things that they used to do quite easily?